I think being a good leader, you first have to be a good follower, and we were there at that point in time too, right? Leadership is in a position it has nothing to do with that. In fact,
it's a mindset. I truly
right?
believe leadership is a mindset.
Yeah, extreme ownership. That's what leadership is. Right?
Exactly.
Regardless of position. So let's go back to ValueShip and why we decided to go in the direction of leadership in management. Yeah, we've had a lot of great experiences with being a leader or being a follower even, but what was that pivot point for us to be like, hey, this is why we're going to go into this marketplace. This is our blue ocean.
This is our marketplace. And, for me, I've always loved leadership as a whole. I've loved the psychology behind it. I loved the mindset behind what leadership actually means, the relationships, because I think the foundation of true leadership is relational. Yeah. It's all about relationships, sure. Man. You know what I mean? And how you interact with different people, how you can use different mindsets in different situations. So just leadership as a whole is so broad, but there's so much layers when it comes to it. And I love diving into all of it. It's exactly like an onion. Just when you hit a new layer, you get to peel that onion back and it goes deeper. It's like a rabbit hole that never ends.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You can spend so much time perfecting your craft, but it goes so deep that the growth that comes from it is unstoppable. And that's what fascinated me ever since the beginning, going back to, like I said, the athletics, going back to the military, just every single day life. I'm like, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life, is really dive into leadership. And so it's like, what is one of the key markets out there that has the biggest leadership gaps? And we see it all over the place. And really what it stems from is one of the largest leadership gaps right now. And I'm sure so many people viewing in can attest to this. It's between the frontline employees and new supervisory roles and middle management. There's such a large leadership gap right there, because I feel like we live in society today where leadership is kind of put on the back burner, where specifically for organizations or corporations, it's like the number one bottom line. What's the bottom line? It's make money, it's pad the pockets of investors, and we lose the art of what ultimately gets there. It's like we lose the art of leadership capabilities. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, just show up, do your job, do your 9 to 5, whatever your role is. That's all we care about, because we need to get to that bottom line.
Right.
And so we live in an era today where there's so much discontentment for people, right? People show up to their work, they're not satisfied because they're not getting fed.
Yeah. And
that's where we saw, hey, there's a large problem set out there. I talked to so many people. I mean, getting out of the military, we worked like 4 different jobs, coming to Texas, got a taste of the corporate life. We've worked like 4 different experiences. And the number one problem was relevant within all of those different industries. We were in insurance, we were in the aerospace community, industrial security, but the bottom line and the commonality between all the different industries was the lack of leadership between frontline employees and middle management, and what that looks like.
And it's so funny too, because it's like, well, I don't care about leadership, right? Like somebody maybe tuning in, like, I don't care about leadership, but leadership affects everything. If it affects your quality of life, right? Like, even if you're just that person that just wants to go show up and just straight up job it, like, I'm just clocking in, I'm gonna do my job good enough to where I don't get fired, and I'm not gonna do anything more or less, right? Why that matters to you is because it affects your quality of life, right? If when you have a bad leader, a bad manager, you go home and you walk into your house and the kids get on you and like, dad.
Yes.
And your wife's like, hey, honey, how was work today? And you're like, right? Just that daunting feeling post-work affects how you go and you treat the relationships that are at home. Or maybe you're a single person, how you approach the rest of your actual life, right? Like, what you do to make money affects everything else, whether it's your paycheck, but more importantly, who you're spending your time with. And we've been affected in positive ways, and we've been affected more times than not, unfortunately. And I think a lot of people can relate to bad times, right? Bad leaders. And so that's why we feel like there's such a huge market, because no matter what business it is or what organization it is or what team it is, there's always people involved in that, and people are a conundrum, and we're here to solve that conundrum because we understand the relationship aspect of leaders, because we ultimately want to create a higher quality of life for those frontline employees, and we want to make life more enjoyable for those managers, for those leaders, to where they have a kick-ass team, you know, for a lack of a better term.
Yeah, exactly. Not just having a kick-ass team, but like you said earlier, the quality of life. I think the number one term that gets thrown around so much these days is toxicity. It's a toxic work environment. It's a toxic relationship. That's a toxic person. You know what I mean? And I think all of this stems from lack of leadership. And that's why you wake up kind of despising the fact that, oh, I have to go to my job today, or am I really going to do this for the rest of my life? Because that environment as a whole, there's a giant lack. And we say this coming from a position of we've lived it. And that's why we're kind of tired, man. Our tiredness, our frustration led us to this point. Instead of just enduring this for the rest of our life, it's like, okay, let's step outside of the box.
Right.
Let's take a step back and let's provide the solution.
Yeah. Entrepreneurs get paid to solve problems.
And this is a large problem set that we truly feel like we can provide a value within this problem set.